TF1 in the first half of this year has really reported some very strong growth. Is that growth sustainable?
The first half of the year was one of a rebound in advertising for television in particular, and for TF1 even more. The advertisers rediscovered the fact that the first most efficient mass media was television, and TF1 was particularly well placed in this area. We also adapted to the new situation. There is more competition in the French market, and 93% of French homes have more access to more than 19 channels, so there is even more competition. From this standpoint, we've had to adapt our commercial offer with more original segmentation. I think things went quite well, and I would say that today TF1 is in a good position to be able, I hope, to have more value in coming months.
In my presentation, I highlighted the importance of strategic flexibility. And I know that that has been a core of your strategy for the last 2 years. But how has that worked in practice?
Quite honestly, that was not the easiest part. When a leader has dominated the market for so many years, it is difficult to act as a challenger. So we had several phases. We focused on reorganizing the company to be able to work faster, to be able to work in a more cross-cutting way, to be sure that everyone understood that most of the functions were interdependent, and that in this approach of new media, in this 360, it was essential for all the components of the company to work truly in a perfectly coordinated way. A second orientation was a renewal of programming, a certain number of concepts that were getting old, and staff to a new generation arrived in TF1. In the first months, it was not that easy. I think that today we can see that the team is working very well, and we have reinstated much more flexible ways of working, and that are much closer, much more constructive, and this helps us work faster in making decisions. And of course, one of the important ideas was to revise the business model for TF1, and one idea was to see how we could improve management. Everyone understood that it was in our common interest to have maximum flexibility with certain production contracts, to introduce audience clauses so that we could change programs as soon as we felt that it no longer really met expectations. We set up partnerships, and I want to mention 2 or 3 of them. The first is with UGC, which, as you know, is one of the main French producers and distributors. Today, we partner with UGC to produce and distribute films and sell them worldwide. This is an intelligent way of sharing risk, and it's also an opportunity to combine our talents for maximum success. This is the first type of partnership. Another is with Samsung, which is the French and even worldwide leader in television sets. And with Samsung, we have a partnership so that today the interactive applications of TF1 are available on Samsung televisions, and we also have a partnership with La Française des Jeux for gaming, and this a major partner with whom we learn a great deal, and we can have great ambitions. And so we have to be flexible enough, concentrate on management, and be as mobile as possible with respect to programming, coordinate everyone's efforts, and not forget partnerships for the purpose of satisfying the expectations of our different audiences and users.
What do you think are the biggest challenges around monetization of digital content?
There's a lot of challenges in there. I mean, you could list the whole problem of free versus pay as something which people will no doubt produce doctorates on in due course, and we're all watching how News International do with incredible care. You might also list in the issues with digital the difference between analog dollars and digital cents. You know, it's one thing replacing an analog service with a digital one, but if all you're going to get is a few cents, it's not necessarily the right thing to do. Patently, cannibalization is a problem. Then there's the business in the world of VOD, of potentially undermining your own linear channels. That's a problem. Then there's piracy, etc. So there's plenty of things. And so We certainly feel we've tried a lot of different ideas out. Not everyone has been a runaway success. Others have been more successful, but as I've already said, I mean, even despite everything we've now been doing for 5 or 6 years, we are in a place where only 6% of our total turnover is coming from online and mobile, and we think we're doing all right.
Let's look at geographies. You mentioned your objective, your vision, to have 66% by 2012 outside of the UK. You've mentioned the importance of the US, I can get that. Where else in the world do you see that growth coming from?
Well, again, there may be sort of unusual characteristics that are relevant for BBC Worldwide that may not be for, let's say, a European company. But for us, being an English language company first and foremost, when we looked at the world 5 years ago to work out where we'd put our focus, our first priority, we decided, were English language countries, because there is a sort of cultural affinity with our kind of programming. We don't have translation problems and so on. And indeed, English language countries where the regulatory environment is relatively benign seem like the highest opportunity for us.
When you look at an expansion strategy, obviously you can have geographic, but you can also have key content brands. And you have a great brand in BBC, but you also have some very compelling content brands. You've mentioned Top Gear. You've mentioned some formats. Is there anything else on the sub-brand side, the content brand side that you see as critical?
Well, we're working on a few, as you might expect. I mean, Top Gear, Doctor Who, Dancing with the Stars, Lonely Planet, they're already up there.
Right.
But it's my belief that after 5 years, half the company will probably be accounted for by maybe 10 key program brands in terms of turnover. And what we've discovered with something like Top Gear, which is probably the one we're most successful with, is that if you really, really focus on it and apply traditional brand management techniques to something which is basically a piece of television content, it's incredible how successful you can be in all these different media formats in countries all over the world. And as I've said, consumers want more and more and more of it, and the more you give, the more they want. And so it's a fantastically good thing to do.
The content of tomorrow, in terms of how we make that content and how we establish, develop that content, are you seeing any major sort of trends in that respect?
Talent-wise? Well, I think in our experience, the talent we work with, and we work with a lot, we've got a lot of people here today over the next 2 days as well. We've got Stephen Fry and Matt Lucas and David Walliams and other people will be down joining us at MIPCOM. This is a very important showcase for them as well. They're making great programs, they want to promote them, they're coming for obvious reasons. Increasingly, I find that they are very, very savvy at understanding the power of their brand and knowing how to cross-promote and market that brand through Twitter. I mean, Stephen can and does write and speak about the importance of Twittering to promote things and to engage with customers. I mean, he's absolutely brilliant at it, better than I could ever be. So you find that you're engaging with talent in ways that they're ahead of you in terms of understanding the importance of how the digital technologies work. That's something we weren't expecting.